Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Catch Up Call podcast. I go by the name of Hines, and we are gonna go through the Ali trial. It has now come to an end. Closing arguments were done today, and we're just gonna recap through all of the closing arguments that have been done. Go over the case that have been presented, the best evidence for both sides. I mean, if you've been following from day one and the recaps we've been given, I don't believe that the defense has provided any evidence to kind of defend themselves whatsoever. But yeah, we're gonna try and go through what their best arguments are, and we're also gonna go through the closing arguments that have been that has been presented by the state and by the defense. It's been a very long day, a very long weekend to get here, I should say, because they were going through the charges and just making sure that the right charges are brought forward and all of those things. So we got to hear those charges today. It was that they said the second the second degree attempted murder definitely stayed, and also the imprisonment was there. Burglary was there for Zahraa Ali. The second degree burglary, first degree assault, and second degree assault for Ihsan Ali, and fourth degree assault, I believe, or was it third degree? I believe it was fourth degree. That is a lesser charge against what Ihsan Ali done to Isaiah, who was the boyfriend of Fatima, and I believe the domestic violence is also there as well. But yeah, like, if I've missed anything, I probably have. I don't believe I have, but if I have, let me know in the chat. Let me know how you're feeling in the chat, and yeah, let us go through this whole closing argument. So the closing argument for the state was done by Heather Stone. Who is the one that I have been geeking over in regards to her questions, and I personally believe her closing argument this time around was really sharp, in my opinion, and she dealt with the pressing. She basically rebutted a lot of what the prosecution had to say, and she explained what the second degree charge for Zahraa Ali had to do. She basically explained what the second degree charge for Zahraa Ali would mean, and why she would be guilty of this charge. So she explained that she would be an accomplice in this case, not necessarily the person that carried out the attack, but more of an accomplice. So anyway, yeah, let's go and take a look at what she had to say.
The defendants are charged with attempted murder if, and I don't know that my red, it's a giant red dot, so you can see the if underneath, right? If the defendants were charged with a completed offense, this is what the state would have to prove, right? But because it is attempted, this is what the state actually has to prove, that on or about October 18th, the defendant did an act that was a substantial step toward the commission of murder in the second degree, that the act was done with the intent to commit murder in the second degree, and that any of these acts occurred in the state of Washington. And then when we talk about Zahraa Ali, the only difference between Ihsan and Zahraa is that Zahraa is charged as a principal or as an accomplice. Ihsan is only charged as a principal, Zahraa is charged in both fashions. So principal, you do it yourself without any help, or accomplice, that you are doing it to assist. You're assisting another in reaching their goal.
I personally think that this did clear up a lot, because I thought that if they were just gonna go through that she was also trying to do it, that they would have difficulty in trying to get over the line with that argument. You have known my opinion in regards to this, that I don't actually believe that she will be guilty of second degree murder, but could she be found as an accomplice? I equally think that it might be difficult as well, because many would think, how would she be an accomplice in the attempted murder if all she did was basically go on the daughter? How would that be an accomplice? I think when people hear that word as a layman, and I personally think that the jury might perceive that and think, well, she wasn't necessarily trying to help him get away with all this, or try and help him carry out the act. How could she do that by also strangling her at the same time? So it could work. It could work. Like it could, because she was on top of her. We heard testimony from eyewitnesses to say that she was also on top, yelling, "My husband, yeah, my husband," all those things. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that they could find her guilty for that. But I do think it could be a stretch. I think that they might find her for, I believe she is for second degree assault. So I think that they might find her for that. So the state also were highlighting the state were highlighting what had happened to Fatima Ali when she was being strangled, and I thought something very interesting came out from it. Let's go watch.
And very clearly know that this is wrong. They're screaming that she can't breathe and he's killing her, and you hear that on the video. He continues to hold her while she fights and struggles. There's an apparent seizure. She goes limp, and then she is unconscious. The testimony by everyone is that her eyes have rolled back in her head, her face is pale, her lips are blue, and I believe Josh Wagner says she has changed colors. When asked on direct examination, Mr. Wagner, based on what you observed, and you came to it towards the end, based on what you observed, is there any way that could have been confused with hugging or simply restraining that child? And his response is no, it's very obvious she was being choked. That was Josh Wagner's statement. And then you have Exhibit 61, which is Elijah's video, that shows you exactly the same thing. So I submit to you that that substantial step towards murder in the second degree has been taken.
So this was a substantive step for Ihsan Ali, and this argument I do think is very strong, because they were trying to rebut what the defense has been presenting all case, which was the fact that it wasn't really a strangulation trying to restrain. I'm not the defense. Their reason is wow to me, but let's go with it for a second. They were basically presenting evidence to try and say that he was mainly hugging the daughter and not necessarily trying to hurt her in any way. And I thought that her at least bringing back the testimonies to show that she was losing color and going out of consciousness, and reminding them of the video, because I think they played the video again during this closing examination, that it gives them the mind that it's just not possible for a hugging to continue, and that substantive step has, in my opinion, it has definitely been met. The next step would be, okay, could she have died from the entire event? So, and I think that might be something that the jury could grapple with in a way, because she was able to get up and go straight to school and get out of the scene. It wasn't as if she was being taken away in an ambulance or anything like that. And I do think that thought might come into a juror's mind. I'm going to get more into that school of thinking, because I was very surprised today that the defense didn't even try and raise something like that. I was because but then again, I'm not a defense attorney, so I don't really know what strategy or what implications that kind of defense or that kind of argument would have led. But I definitely would have thought that it might be a stronger case if they were to say something like, okay, a strong case for the defense if they were to say something like, okay, she did not go to the hospital. She the minute that she regained consciousness, and she was released from the grip, she was fine, or something like that. Like they played around that a little bit. So that's always been something for me that a juror might think, was there a real high likelihood that she could have really died from this based on everyone's testimony? Because so that's just what I had in mind. But anyway, there was the point that I want to get to is where she highlighted Zahraa Ali's substantive step, and this was to try and prove her second degree murder. Let's watch.
At 34, it has the date time stamp on the bottom. So 2/13/55, Fatima goes unconscious. So we know she's already in that state by the time mom gets there. Her face is pale, her lips are blue. Ihsan is still actively strangling Fatima at that time. We said she knows what's going on because it's apparent to everyone else, immediately apparent to everyone else. And Zahraa is the only one that knows those individuals. And that she's attempting to intervene on behalf of her husband while he is still actively choking Fatima. Not Fatima. She's not attempting to intervene on behalf of Fatima. That is a substantial step. That is more than your presence and knowledge at that scene. We know that Fatima...
I get the argument that they're definitely making in regards to Zahraa Ali, because if you're going to intervene, your thinking should have been, let me intervene to save the daughter. So if you're intervening and gonna put yourself in some kind of legal jeopardy, you would at least try to do it so that the daughter could be safe, in a way, like trying to take the father away or joining others with moving the father out of the way. But from the testimony that we've all heard, she was actually trying to join in with the father to actually, well, as they put it, discipline. I still find it weird, but as the defense put it, discipline the daughter. This is what I thought was really good by the prosecution, because they kept stressing over and over again that this was literally just a strangulation and in no way a discipline whatsoever. They kept stressing the important word especially here that we just heard of her getting involved. They kept stressing she's not helping the daughter. She's actually making it more difficult for the daughter to even get out of the grasp, or even having to not escape. Well, yeah, to escape. She's not helping the daughter to escape the whole strangulation, but at the same time, she's making it worse. So that's what she's essentially highlighting highlighting with Zahraa Ali's substances step. So, but I still believe that even with that highlight, and I do think that with them explaining, and they were always gonna do it, but with them at least explaining that she's more often of an accomplice than the principal, or both, as they were trying to present, at least it's a lot easier to see how she could play a part in the attempted murder. But some people, but I still believe for her it would be not a stretch, but it might be difficult to get it over the line. I think they'll just give her the assault, and get it out of the way. Because I always felt like trying to get her for the attempted murder, even as an accomplice, might be very difficult, because there is no way to prove that she just intended to help the father. Like that's what I'm thinking about it. Like, it might be very hard to get over that hurdle that the intent was to show up there to be his accomplice, to basically aid in what he was doing. I think you can argue it away as well, that what she saw was a crazy, chaotic scene, and she definitely took part in the whole thing. But to argue that the intent was to be helping the husband do it, might fall short. But that doesn't mean that she didn't assault the daughter, because based on the evidence that and based on the testimony, she definitely did do that. But to say that she was part of the murder, that's where I think the state could have a problem proving. So this is the argument that she made in regards to the defense, that in regards to what the defense had highlighted to say that all they were doing was to discipline the daughter, who was a truant, who wasn't really obedient at home. So let's go watch let's go watch the defense for this.
And that any of these acts occurred in the state of Washington, same information that you had previously. Okay? So what is the unlawful imprisonment as it relates to element 4 only for Ihsan? First and foremost, without legal authority, you cannot strangle your child to restrain them. It seems really obvious, but apparently it has to be spelled out. You cannot strangle your child to restrain them. Instruction 21 is the self-defense instruction for assault, but I submit to you it is instructive for explaining the limitation on parents' rights for either correcting or restraining your child. You forfeit your right to use parental discipline to restrain your child when you do so in this manner, when you strangle your child and impede their breathing. It should be obvious. The other examples given in that instruction, you can't burn your child, that should be obvious to correct them or restrain them. You can't throw your child, you can't cut your child, you can't punch your child with a closed fist. Those should be really obvious things as parents, right? You do not, that force is incompatible with the duty to care for your child as a parent. So you cannot restrain your child by strangling them and cutting off their air. That is not an appropriate use of legal authority. And element 5, as it relates to Ihsan.
So at least now I know what they mean by the imprisonment charge, because I personally thought during the streams that the imprisonment charge could have been just not allowing her to go onto the bus to go to where she was going to go, and they used the means of the strangulation to carry out the act. That's what I personally thought, but it seems to me that just the strangulation act is part of. So even though they might find him guilty of attempted murder, they would also find him guilty of imprisonment as well, because of I'm guessing the status that they have as parents. So that was my understanding from when the jury instructions was read, and also and also based on the argument here. So this highlight to the jury, I think, really helps with the intent part as well. Inadvertently helps with the intent part for the attempted murder, because end of the day, what yeah, you wouldn't be trying to discipline your child by strangling them and it wasn't a hug. Like, based on the injuries that was found after the strangulation, and all of the symptoms when she went to the hospital, all of those things, this was not a hug. This was definitely, unequivocally, not a hug. So it's just absurd to me that the defense actually went with the idea that this was that she was being punished. I still can't believe that was actually their defense throughout this whole case, that they were actually putting on an active defense to try and say no, he was just hugging her and all those things. So the prosecution highlighted those factors today when they said no, she comes from a non-hugging family. They don't even have touch or contact. They don't even see the parents touch each other and have contact in front of them. So how would they now suddenly, in front of everybody, be hugging the parents? And when you watch the video, you see the father flying on Fatima. So how is that even a... Yeah. So I have always had difficulty trying to wrap my head around all of that. But anyway, let's move on to her making more points to at least try and meet this intent element that they have to meet regarding second-degree murder.
He's angry that she has defied him.
Attempted second-degree murder, I should say.
He's only released Fatima when he is forced to do so by other adults. When you go back to that family household member, that is your B1 special verdict form again. Nothing has changed. Back to physical discipline, that force used as lawful is defined, reasonable and moderate, purpose of restraining or correcting, and viewed objectively. So why does this not apply? Well, it applies for charged and lesser offenses. You're going to see that, and you have a whole range of instructions in there about lesser offenses. First, it must be your child. Okay, he meets that. It's his child. It's not somebody else's child. Must be for the purpose of restraining or correcting. It fails immediately there. None of this contact at this point for the assault in the first degree is for restraining or correcting. It is punishment. He's intending it for punishment of this child. Ihsan is angry. He may have gone to the bus stop to get Fatima and take her home, but by the time he grabs her, he is no longer doing that for the purpose of correcting her. I think one of the primary tenets of parenting is that if you are so angry you can't see straight, you do not engage with your child. You walk away. You don't attempt restraint. You don't attempt correction, because you are no longer acting in a manner that is for the child's purpose. By the time you make contact with that child, you are doing so for your own edification. That's exactly what is happening here. Parents don't correct children by strangling them. Parents don't correct children, restrain children by strangling them. It has to be objectively reasonable and moderate. You are deemed to be reasonable people. That's why you're sitting here. It has to be objectively reasonable and moderate use of force, and that is not what occurs in this case.
I do think her argument was impactful, in my honest opinion, because I definitely believe that she was impactful in delivering the main points that none of this is normal, that no reasonable person would just sit there. And this in my opinion might connect well with the jury, because I don't believe any reasonable person watching this could actually believe that this is all a parent disciplining their child who has been who is a runaway. Based on the evidence presented, she was running away, but we got to hear that she had a place to go to seek shelter. So immediately you're gonna think what's going on in that house. So I just think that based on all the evidence coming in, that this charge is definitely going to get met, and I think that the intent is proven, even though the intent for the second degree, for the attempted second degree murder is proven, even though the mother, the being their accomplice, etc., might not be completely proven. I still definitely think that at least for the father is 100% there. The imprisonment, I will admit, I'm not too sure if this is included as a lesser charge or a standalone charge, alongside with the second degree murder. So, but if both of them are isolated charges, then I definitely see the father getting the false imprisonment, or I see him getting that, as well as the second degree attempted murder. So the next part that she's going to argue is for the burglary for Zahraa Ali. I do think at first I didn't quite get this, because I've always thought burglary is something to do with when you're stealing something, when you break into a house and then you have to steal from something. So I learned something new, completely new today. That no, it's not actually when you break into the house, but it's just the idea that there's a place that you're restricted to go, and when you do enter that place, that a criminal activity could occur if you intend to go to that place that you were restricted to go. So I didn't know that at first. I've always thought burglary had something to do with robbery. But anyway, let's see how she argues it.
And then we have the strangulation, the medical reports, the doctor and nurse testimony. So the physical discipline defense for Zahraa is the same analysis as it was for Ihsan. It is unreasonable to interfere with a child's breathing. That is an inference that you get to make based on that description. Nothing changes about the size, age, and condition of the child. And nothing changes about the location of the injury to Fatima. And that's same special verdict form for assault in the second by Fatima, or for Zahraa on Fatima. Count 4, burglary in the second degree. Burglary in the second degree occurs when you commit the crime of entering or remaining unlawfully in a building with intent to commit a crime against a person or property therein. That's the definition. Then you have the definition of enter or remains unlawfully. That is again in your instruction packet. You enter or remain unlawfully in or upon premises when you are not then licensed, invited, or otherwise privileged to enter. So enter or remain.
And this is key because we heard that the school went into a lockdown. So this was the key to that testimony, and at least bringing the school officials in. It wasn't pertaining to Ihsan Ali, but more so for Zahraa. So we heard that from the principal as well as the nurse. We heard that they had gone into a lockdown the minute that Fatima Ali came in to report what had essentially happened with her and her father, and just what had happened at the scene. They went into a lockdown. So the mother still turned up to the school, this even with the restraining order, which I think she is definitely going to get the violation for. So the mother still turned up to the school, and she still was looking for Fatima. And I think that the main point from all of this that I thought was key was when the prosecution highlighted that even though she turned up to the school and was looking for Fatima, she wasn't even asking, is she okay? Is she all this? Like, she just wanted to look for her so that they could go through and basically try and say, and basically try to get her back so that they can have her way with her, and do whatever they were planning to do with her. So I thought that was a good argument for the criminal intent. I think it's I think they've done enough to at least show that she wasn't invited to the place, but the fact that one of the elements is that you need to have a criminal intent, that there was an intent for a crime to happen, could make the jury believe actually this might not be burglary at all. She was just going to look for the daughter. That's all about it. That's about it. Even though she didn't ask all these questions, she just she wasn't going there to commit some kind of crime, So I think that this one might fall flat. I think this argument might fall flat. So anyway, I want to go to the defense closing for Ihsan Ali, and it's just like, and I thought it was just the gifts that just kept on giving, because there is no, like, listening to it today, my jaw dropped. I could not believe what I was hearing. I could not believe that they were making this argument, and I even thought, is the judge actually thinking in her head, are you serious? Like, what's going on? The court reporters' faces as well. I was like, is she affected by this as well? So there was all of that going through my head. And listen to this part of the argument where he tried, Eric Keating tried to argue that what they were doing was just discipline. Let's go have a look.
Or CPS if she thinks someone's in immediate danger, but don't feel safe. Now, it's an interesting scenario with Mrs. Robinson, because she's able to call law enforcement or CPS if she thinks someone's in immediate danger, but she doesn't do that in this case. And she chooses not to call the Ali's at all. She said, well, I have confidentiality. Fatima didn't want me to call. Okay. So the scenario now is Fatima's run away. Her parents have no idea where she is. They've called the police. Fatima's at the school. Nobody from the school calls the Ali's to say, your daughter's safe. I mean, I don't suppose they're required to say, we're calling from the school, your daughter's safe. They could just call and say, your daughter's safe. Don't worry about her. They could do it anonymously. Hey, we have your daughter. We're talking to her. But they don't. They choose not to do that. They leave the Ali family in the dark all day.
So I knew it. I just knew. I said it. When the principal was giving testimony and they did that cross-examination. I said it. I said they will come back on this on the closing, and they will definitely highlight that the school failed by to call the parents and let them know that the daughter is at least safe with them, so they don't have to worry. I knew they were gonna make that argument. They didn't say it here to complete the argument and say, because my thinking was they were gonna say that all of this could have been avoided if the school did that. But I'm guessing that's the main inference that they're going for here. And using the school, I mean, I get the defense. I completely get it. It's their best defense in my honest opinion. But using the school to try and say that all of this happened because they didn't reassure their parents, surely the jurors, like, and I believe one of the person in the chat on day 7 recap, they basically said that the jurors might be thinking, well, why wouldn't the school call their parents and call the CPS first and foremost? Why would they do that if the Ali's were not a threat to her? So the jurors might be thinking that. Because they have heard that the parents did not approve of the relationship. They heard that fact, even though they don't hear of all of the history, the previous CPS calls, they haven't even heard that the daughter had they haven't heard the reason why the daughter was so fearful in the house, just that she was fearful. They haven't heard all those facts, but they definitely heard that the boyfriend, the family did not approve of that. They heard about the mother going after the boyfriend. They also heard about the restraining order against the family and the attempt to try and separate them from both the Barnes, Victor Barnes, and trying to stop the relationship from going on. They've heard that fact. So if they are hearing this fact, and they also heard that the parents, that this wasn't the first time running away, that she's run away before, surely they are smart enough to put together, like, if she's run away before and she was the previous runaway, then why wouldn't the school contact them? Why would they contact CPS straight away? They're gonna put two and together and say, yeah, there's something more to this, and it's nothing to do with the school. It's to do with the parents being a terror to the child. And the state rebutted this beautifully. But before I get to that rebuttal, I just want to say shout out to everyone that are tuned in right now. Make sure you hit that like button if you haven't hit it already. And definitely let me know how you're feeling in the chat. Shout out to the trial channel for tuning in. I appreciate you. Said, I can't wait to hear about this based on your post on X today. Literally, my mouth dropped. So I'm gonna go through all the points that I saw from the defense. It's something, I guess. Yeah. Like, this is the best defense that they have. Like this, and I do think if they probably stuck with this and just denounced the strangulation, could work. It's like we have different. Like, they could have said I don't know. He could have argued that. Again, I'm not a defense attorney, so I have no idea how to argue these things or the strategy that goes on. But you could definitely argue that the daughter was running away, and your idea was just to stop her from running away. So you jumped on her, and somehow your arm. It's not defensible. I'm sorry. It's not defensible. I gotta applaud them for at least trying, though. I gotta applaud them for at least trying, but it's not defensible. I can't even do it. Maybe I need training to be able to put up some kind of defense for something like this. But I just can't think of it as a layman how you can defend someone being strangled like this. But anyway, let's continue to hear more of the defense closing argument.
Right there, between 213.29 and 213.30.
Too far forward. Oh, this is.
So here comes Isaiah. Boom, hits him. Caleb comes in.
You indicate what time you stopped.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is 213.26. Caleb comes in from the right side. Now, he's not pulling anyone away. You can see he's pretty clearly pushing Mr. Ali, he's pushing Isaiah in the back. Mr. Ali here next to the tree, and these are the legs of Fatima over here. Okay? So, there was no falling to the ground. This was clearly being tackled to the ground by at least these two people. And I think we're going to see Zayla. All right? You can see him hit the tree, and boom. At this point, everybody's on the ground. And right there, excuse me, I'm going to pause it again, 213.29. So we haven't gone very far in the video here. The first thing we see is Isaiah kicking Mr. Ali in the head, right? He's on the ground kicking Mr. Ali in the head. Start it up again.
Yeah, so that's Isaiah Barnes' father. I'm guessing you mean the black guy that was shaking his head. That's Victor Barnes, Isaiah Barnes' father. He's such a mood.
Now,
I was
right there.
I was laughing at that.
Between 213.29 and 213.30, frame 8, you can see Mr. Ali on the ground, underneath Caleb's feet here. And if you watch him, after he gets kicked in the head, right there, he kind of curls up at that point, all right? And then additional hitting and kicking is happening very quickly. We're 3 seconds in here. He's getting hit in the head, he's getting kicked in the head, and he's hanging on to Fatima. Now, remember this scenario. We're at the bus stop. Somebody we don't know comes up to us, gets between us and our daughter. This is Isaiah at the time. And he starts putting his hands up in my throat, my neck area, because I'm trying to take my daughter home. Okay?
I'm sorry. I just gotta pause for a bit because I'm going to comment on what I just heard. But just the wife alone turning to look at him like, where is he actually? What's actually going on? He's just shaking his head. Like, it's bizarre. It's bizarre to go down this route. Let me finish off.
One punch at him to get him away. Doesn't even knock him to the ground. He just kind of gets him off. Then he's heading over to still get his daughter into the car. He's the father. He's the concerned father who hasn't heard anything about where she's been all day, other than here she sits at the bus stop, right?
Concerned father.
He does not know these people. These people come at him and attack him at that point. He's got his daughter with him. He's trying to control his daughter. She's trying to get away. And so what does he do? He hangs on. Okay? He's hanging on to his daughter. She's in front of him on the ground, and he's got it. He's kind of curled around her, and he's hanging on. Now, the government would have you think that at that point, he's strangling her, and he's intending to kill her. When in fact, what we see is a man laying on the ground who just got kicked in the head, holding on to his daughter. Now, why is that important? Well, because if you remember when we were talking to Dr. Gilbert, I asked her a couple of things about blows to the head, right? I said, well, what about hitting the tree with your head? She said, well, Fatima didn't have anything on her head. And I said, well, what about if you kick somebody in the head? Oh, yeah, that can cause problems. That can cause cerebral edema or concussion. What happens when you get those? Well, your body functions, but you can't control it, right? That's where we're at. We're at a place where a guy is on the ground, he's being attacked, he's being punched, he's being kicked in the head while he has his daughter. Apparently, while that's happening in these few seconds, he's forming some sort of an intent to strangle her. There's no evidence that was ever put forth that he was intending to strangle her. What we have here is we have a melee, a mob.
Look at it, judge's face, by the way, in all of this. It's like, what? I'm sorry. I know it means nothing, but I just find it strange that that she's just looking straight blank. Anyway,
we have chaos going on. And at this point, what happens is they start yelling and screaming at him to let her go. That's what they're screaming, right? I'm going to start the video here at 2:13:34. Let's play it at full speed for the next.
So basically, his best argument to invalidate intent is the fact that he's basically blaming the people that were surrounding him to get him off the daughter. At this point, he is on the daughter and have the door strangling the daughter, and people are trying to get him off him by hitting him, doing all those things. He's arguing. He's basically blaming them for saying, look, he would have, if you didn't get involved, he would have got off the daughter in his own time. He would have got off the daughter, but because you guys were hitting him on the head, he sustained injuries that we never got to hear, by the way. Now, he sustained injuries to his head, making him stall in his arm around the door, like basically stall and just holds the door there, and he's basically brain dead at this point. So that's the defense. That's essentially what he's saying. I don't know about you, but if he sustained injuries to his head, I'm pretty sure a doctor could have testified to this. They did bring a doctor up there. So why didn't she testify, or why didn't she do some kind of evaluation to Mr. Ali? Like, why didn't she do that so that they can at least get it into evidence to say, look, no, he sustained injuries as well, to at least bolster the argument? Because it's absolutely ridiculous that you just suggesting that this mob just turned up out of nowhere and didn't let you strangle her. I don't get it. Maybe this is genius. Maybe this is a genius move that I'm not seeing. So let's just continue watching because
A few seconds. Turn on some audio as well. All right. So let's watch what happens. Oh, I don't know where the audio is. Stopping it now, 2:13:38, frame 9. You can see Isaiah is right there pounding on Mr. Ali's head. Up and down, many times. Now we have.
By the way, this is a 17-year-old kid seeing his girlfriend get strangled and losing consciousness, and this is now he's his fault for doing all these things.
We haven't got to the point yet where Caleb drags Mr. Ali. He doesn't grab his arm and try and pull his arm free. What he does is he just grabs him by the bottom of the coat and yanks it up. You can see Mr. Ali's back come up. He drags him away from the tree. That's where he's going with that. Doesn't drag him very far, but he drags him away from the tree. Let's watch that. I'm going to start at 2:13:38. Right there. Now, he's not grabbing his arms. He's grabbing at his coat, he's grabbing on his back, and he's yanking him across the ground. Meanwhile, Fatima, who allegedly they're trying to protect, is underneath Mr. Ali. Mr. Ali is on his stomach right there. He is on his stomach, being dragged by somebody he doesn't know, punched by somebody he doesn't know, across the ground with his daughter with him, and he's hanging on. He doesn't want anyone to snatch his daughter. He wants to hang on to his daughter, right? So, watch it again. Keep going from there. Kicking, punching, hitting. Now, at that point, you could see Fatima, and there comes the bus driver, Mr. Denicola. All right? I'm going to stop it now, 2:13:54. We're 40 seconds into this video. That's where we are. Mr. Denicola is there. Now, what he said was that he went there and he stopped the assault. Contrary to what Mr. Wagner said. Mr. Wagner said he stopped the assault. And then finally, of course, Isaiah says, no, it was me. I stopped the assault because I knocked him out. That's what he said. Okay? So one of the three of them knocked him out. Now,
I don't know about you, but if you need people to knock you out, you are basically the one. I don't know. I personally think that this defense was a one-way ticket. If he is found guilty of attempted second-degree murder, this defense was definitely the one-way ticket to actually getting that done. Because I don't know why you would walk into this. I don't know why you wouldn't set up the idea. Because I personally didn't see this coming. From all of the cross-examination of the witnesses, there was no, from what I noticed, there was no kind of idea that he was trying to say you could have done this, or did you have to kick him? Could you have just pulled him off? I didn't hear that line of rationale. It was just, look at how you are standing. Look at from what I remember, I did not hear him try to point out that he could have and you kicking him, that could have caused injuries, right? All of those things, I never heard that language. So I'm pretty surprised that they're using it now. It seems like an afterthought, and I don't know why they didn't prepare for at least try to present evidence to show that Mr. Ali was injured from all of this, because from what I'm getting, he's fine. From all of this testimony, he is not injured from the scene. It's only Fatima that had the gravelly voice that went to our hospital. We haven't heard anything that he needed to that when he was being detained that they had to give him medical aid as well. So I just find it strange that he would make this argument now, and when he had a chance to speak to all his witnesses, he just didn't highlight the points that he's highlighting now. I just don't get that. Anyway, this is the next part that we're gonna go to is the argument for intent, and if you thought that the that the wheels came off the wagon here, you're going to be surprised by all
You
this.
can see at that point, it's kind of hard. I'm sorry, Your Honor. 214:08, frame 6. Again, you guys will have all of this in the room. You can take a look at it. If you look right here, you can see that Fatima is laying there next to her father. And at this point, this is the hat right here of Mr. Wagner, and he then sits on Mr. Ali for the remainder. Mr. Ali no longer moves from that point for the next several minutes, okay? And it's not until Officer Hang comes and arrests him. So that's the end of that video, 214:08. That's the 53 seconds that we're talking about. That's the amount of time for all of this to happen where Mr. Ali allegedly formed the intent to kill his daughter. That's what they're thinking that he was doing. A man who called the police when his daughter was missing. Not just once, but at least twice. A man who spent the day looking for his daughter. He finds her. He wants to take her home. He has no idea what's going on, except that she ran away that morning. No one has had the courtesy to call him and tell him what's happening. So what does he do?
Him. Poor him. Poor him. What? I'm so sorry. What? I mean, he must realize at this point that he's cooked. He must have because like he looks uninterested in all this, and I'm pretty sure the jury is picking up on this because he must be like, this is uninspiring as hell. I cannot believe what I'm actually hearing. Like, they are actually putting the onus on everyone else's behavior and not his. He's fine. What he did was not beyond belief. What he did was within normal realms. Everyone else was at fault. Everyone else should have told him, yo, your daughter's run away, but no, we've got her. She's safe with us. Okay.
Tries to take her home. He gets attacked by a mob. He's beat about the head and neck area. And allegedly, he has, at that point, informed intent to either A, kill his daughter, which obviously didn't want to do, or B, seriously maim her. Assault 1. No. The question is, did he strangle her with an intent? Did he intend it? Was it intended at all when he's there? Or is it just circumstantial, right?
How do you circumstantially go and strangle somebody? How does that happen? How do you, like, bear in mind, this is a 17-year-old girl, by the way. 17-year-old girl. Like, at the time, I believe she was 16. I'm not too sure if she's 17 now, but I believe at the time she was 16. This girl right here, how do you accidentally go and strangle her? How do you jump on? How does that happen by accident?
Just because I'm on the ground, I've been tackled, I've been dragged, I've been kicked, I've been punched, I'm hanging on to my daughter. I don't know who these people are trying to take her, but I sure don't want to let her go. Something a father would do. Something a father would want to do, hang on to his child.
Ooh.
Now, is it unfortunate that her neck was compressed? Yes, it was. But that is not a crime if you don't intend it. Okay?
Oh my God. I cannot actually believe this. I cannot actually believe this. So, how did the arms go around her then? How did it, like, I would understand if his argument was like he just jumped on her and my mind's blown. He just jumped on her and she broke ribs or something. She just broke all of those things. I can understand in some realm how you cannot say that that was attempted murder because she got injured by jumping on her and there was no, yeah, you can argue the intent part better there, like, but he jumped on her and went ahead to put his arm around her. Why would you do that if you were not intending to harm the person? I mean, yeah, the assault part, in my opinion, is definitely slam dunk right there. And I get the difficulties in trying to prove the attempted murder, but you cannot seriously try to believe that these people are going to really think that there was no intent to strangle her here because they have seen the video. We've seen the video. Bizarre argument to me. Like, completely bizarre argument to me. I will say again, if all of this was just he hit her, he jumped on her, and she accidentally broke her back, and she could have died from some kind of spinal failure or whatever, and that's all he did, he wins this argument hands down. But that's, I mean, the argument would then turn around to why would he jump on her, things like that. And if she was found running away from the scene, you can argue that maybe he was just trying to stop her from being a runaway again. You can maybe argue that. Not the best argument, but I do think that has a bit more merit than the fact that this guy was strangling the girl. That has a bit more legs.
In this case, if all the witnesses, some of their testimony, watch this video before coming to testify, because it's possible some of their testimony could have been contaminated by what they saw, which is different than what they remembered, but it all was the same pretty much, except they still made mistakes, right? They still made mistakes because they didn't want to know what they had done.
Let me move forward a little bit. Okay.
Now I want to just talk a little Gilbert. She's the witnesses that we heard from. We heard from Dr. Gilbert. She's the one who testified. She said the body's an amazing thing. What she also said, if you're knocked unconscious, it says the body's functioning, but the ability to control it is not there. Okay? If you're hit in the head and you're concussed, you lose your abilities to use your brain. If you don't have the ability to use your brain, you can't form the intent necessary to commit the crimes that the government is alleging. Right? They said he did not go to school with a plan to kill his daughter. He did not develop a plan to kill his daughter between when he got out of his truck and when he was tackled to the ground. What he did was develop the intent to hang on, to protect his daughter. They showed nothing else. They showed no evidence of anything. They didn't have him saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. They had no evidence of anyone hearing him making any threats. They had no evidence of any of that because there wasn't any. No intent. What was in his mind? Did they prove it to you beyond a reasonable doubt? Get into jury instructions beyond a reasonable doubt. Something, a doubt for which there is a reason. Okay? As to any single element of a crime. And in this case, intent. Is there a doubt as to his intent? Yes, there is. How do we know? Because they didn't provide us any evidence.
This is not. Honestly, this is possibly the worst defense to the second degree attempted murder. And like I said, I think that at least them highlighting the school part and saying that the school should have, at least that is is better than what they're presenting so far. I think that would, if they stuck with that, would have done a lot. But to go on to say that he was trying to protect her by strangling her, protect her from what? What was the danger that was looming? They don't even provide any. I mean, they don't have to. Is the defense? They don't have to provide any kind of proof or any kind of alternate theories. They don't have to, but at least try and show where the danger that she was facing was, to argue protection. That just doesn't make sense to me. What are you protecting her from? 1 minute she's a runaway. Like, okay, we know that there was a place planned for her to go for shelter. Was this place going to abuse her, or all those things? Is that what you're trying to argue as protection? Okay, why didn't we hear anything about these shelter places? He didn't want her daughter, his daughter, to end up in these shelters. So to his mind, the daughter was going, like, he was going to lose his daughter. Things like that. At least I don't. Weird angle for me. Weird angle. They don't even have any evidence to even show that the father was concussed. Like, there was nothing from the officers to suggest, at least from what I remember, no one testified to this. They have not brought up or cross-examined the officers saying, did you do a medical evaluation of the father because he's been hit on all those things? And yet you're banking everything on this kind of argument. Doesn't make sense to me. Just doesn't make sense why you would throw the whole kitchen sink on this particular argument when you haven't even tried to lay the seeds throughout this whole trial to kind of justify this kind of standpoint. One thing I noticed as well from all of this is the fact that he doesn't mention the life at home. He doesn't try and say, no, they actually had a good life at home. It's just that the daughter was always running away from home. Like, he doesn't provide to say the father actually does love the daughter, because he was just trying to. They don't try to say anything. They don't even try to connect with the jury. It's just, we have this thing that we have to try and prove, so therefore let's attack it. I mean, at least with the Raul Valley case, from their closing arguments, from what I remember from it, at least from that case, you can argue that the defense done a lot better job connecting with the jury and sending the idea that this was just a child that was flawed and he didn't go out there intending to kill this boy. I thought that, I mean, different case, I know different kind of situations, I understand, but I personally felt that based on the evidence presented, that boy was actually cornered and there was no way for him to actually maneuver and get that not guilty verdict. I actually thought he was done. And then I was proven wrong, but I cannot deny how impactful that closing was in some level to at least humanize him a little bit. This man is not even humanizing Mr. Ali in any way at all. He's making it seem like, okay, if I argue that this guy wasn't a cold-blooded attacker against Fatima, that's all you need. I mean, I don't know about you, but like, when you look at I wouldn't be surprised if the jury just comes back and just be like, we just think that he is very cold to that girl, and the only reason why he did what he did was because she didn't want to go to Iraq. They already have that in evidence. So that's what that was the closing argument for Eric Keating for Ihsan Ali. Now we're gonna go to Tim Leary, who gave his closing argument for Zahraa Ali, and his closing argument was a bit better in my opinion. I think he done a good job, and I personally felt like he was a better lawyer out of both defense lawyers. In my opinion, he was always personable, at least always seemed to at least have the best skills to in my opinion, get the best out of the witnesses. Sorry, yeah, the witnesses that he had to cross-examine. So I personally thought his closing was better, in my honest opinion. But I cannot believe that the closing from that was the closing from Mr. Ihsan Ali's lawyer. Like, it doesn't. He tried to argue that what happened was a father's love, like he was just trying to protect her. That just doesn't compute to me. I don't think anyone can look at that video and be like, yeah, that's love. I just think he just made things a lot worse for his client. Anyway, before I go to the closing argument of Tim Leary, let me just say hi to the chat. D-Mark, thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you. Welcome. Yeah, you might be late. You might be late, but at least you're here. Better late than never, as they always say. You can always watch back on replay. I'm gonna go a lot faster now to hopefully you can watch this back a bit easier. I always try to keep my streams a bit on the shorter side so that people are able to watch the full stream without much difficulty on replay. So yeah, but anyway, thanks so much for joining. Let me just read this chat. It says, Mr. Ali's defense attorney kept saying he was hanging on to and holding on to Fatima when in fact he was strangling. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see the language change a bit, and like just and him just try to send the idea that he wasn't exactly holding on. So I don't know the angles that they have in court, because of course with them being minors, there was a lot of restrictions. But I'm pretty sure that the jury have a full 360-degree view, at least, and different perspectives that they could see that he was clearly strangling this girl. So based on the videos that I've seen online before it was taken down, when this trial started, based on those videos, I cannot in my world think that this guy was just holding onto a door. I just don't see that. Like, it's more clear that there was that he was trying to harm her. Anyway, let's go on and see this closing argument from Tim Leary.
13 defines accomplice. Did she aid? More than mere presence and knowledge of criminal activity of another must be shown to establish that a person present is an accomplice. She didn't solicit, she didn't command, she didn't encourage, she didn't request her husband to commit murder in the second degree.
That's pretty.
Did she aid or agree to aid in his attempt to murder his daughter?
To be honest,
Well,
to be honest, he's kind of blurring the lines here with the premeditated. The first, it's not first degree, it's second degree. So, I mean,
the state has acknowledged that there was no plan. There was no, Mr. Ali didn't arrive there with the intent to murder his daughter. So, in the seconds that she walked up there, after seeing her husband being punched, she said to the officers, "I saw that." As she approached, her husband's on the ground, her daughter's on the other side, there's kids in between. Mr. Wagner, coming from the other direction, had a clear view of Fatima. The state would have you believe that in those mere seconds that she formed the intent to say, wow, I'm going to help my husband kill my daughter, by kind of standing around trying to push Isaiah off, who had just been punching her husband in the head. Or that she, while she's holding her daughter, crying, my daughter, in a voice that Fatima described as sad, and told the police that she was trying to protect her from the chaos. In the state's eyes, that's attempted murder. Ladies and gentlemen, this is why we have juries. It's not her decision, it's not the court's decision, it's not my decision, it's your decision It's your responsibility to hold the state to its burden, that we start from a presumption of innocence. Constitutionally, we walk in this door and we say that my client has not done anything. What did she do? She ran across a parking lot, through a crowd of kids, said that she could see her husband being punched, not 30 times, not 40 times, towards the end, stood there, as we saw in the video when it zoomed in, kind of with Mr. Wagner. Wagner goes in, frees his daughter. If that's attempted murder, we're all in trouble. If a mother going to the aid of her daughter, checking on her husband, who a mob has surrounded and kicked repeatedly and beat, and there's no evidence that she could actually see her face from where she was standing, that in those seconds it's attempted murder, I submit that it's not. Next is the assault too.
Okay, so I personally thought this was a lot better breakdown. I do think that he does have a point in regards to it'll be hard to argue that she was an accomplice if all she did was see all these guys jump, because that's true. Like, she did come in. It's not like she was with the father starting off. She did come in and then continue to strangle Fatima based on the testimonies. So I do think he has a point there, but he has lost me by calling them a mob of people, because I think this is where the defense just completely lost me. I personally think that Lally and Hank Brennan would have done a lot better with this defense if they. I mean, it's not true. I mean, they're working with bare bones. I mean, if Hank Brennan had to defend this guy, I think he would have at least got something out of it. I would have loved to see how he would defend this, in my opinion. But what I'm trying to say is, when you see this argument, and then, like, he makes a good argument for Zahraa Ali, but he just lost it all, in my opinion, by saying that all of this was a mob of people going after them. And you got to ask yourself, what were they doing that this mob even exists? This is what just knocks the argument out of the water for me. And the next part of the argument that he made was in regards to the burglary, that I thought was interesting, and I do think it could hold up, and she might not be convicted of burglary after this argument, in my opinion.
I'm going to run into that school against a person or property therein. Did she run into that school to violate? I'm going to run into that school to violate, with the intent to violate a protection order against Isaiah. She wasn't running in there to have contact with Isaiah. She was running in there. My daughter, I saw my daughter run in here.
I know he has to defend the burglary aspect as well. I know he has to defend, the restraining order aspect as well. But Isaiah was in the building. Like, he was with Fatima. They have established that. They didn't go into what he was saying on all those things, but he was definitely established to be in the building. So with her going there, yeah, you are breaking the restraining order. Even being at the scene breaks the restraining order. So he definitely have that. And I guess they're trying to argue that the restraining order could have been the criminal intent or the intent to commit the crime. But what he should be, in my opinion, what he should be trying to highlight was how he wasn't allowed. She just wasn't allowed to be in the school. She wasn't invited to be at the school, etc. So I think that's the only part that helps with the burglary. But to say that she was intending to commit a crime because she already had an existing order, so that would be the crime, I think that's a bit too far-fetched, in my opinion, and I do think the argument there that she wasn't going there to hurt Isaiah, who, in my opinion, would have been the intent of the would have been the intended target to go into the school to try and commit this criminal act from the burglary. I think that did help, but there is no defending about the violation of the restraining order, in my honest opinion. So I'm gonna go to the state rebuttal to all of this, and the state had a lot to, in my opinion, this was a lot. I think she came back with a lot more fire and passion in what she had to say to rebut to everything that she said, and she began very strongly by highlighting why Fatima even ran home in the first place. Let's watch.
Turn at that time. You heard her say, I'd been before and there were some things I liked about it, but mostly I did not feel safe. I feel fears about going back to Iraq. She had real fears about that. It was a one-way ticket. There was no intent or explanation or indication of return at that time. You heard her say, I'd been before and there were some things I liked about it, but mostly I did not feel safe. And when I have now been pulled from school, I am no longer around anyone. I've had my cell phone taken away. I can't communicate with anyone. I am at home where my parents can see me all the time. I don't have any adults to talk to. And now I'm going to a country where I don't feel safe. There might be family there, but as Fatima has demonstrated throughout this trial, and this evidence has demonstrated, those are not family members that support Fatima. That's not what she's expecting. And there is no return ticket to come home for a 17-year-old who has lived here for a long time. That was very concerning to her based on her own personal experiences, and she expressed that to you.
And I think that's enough to basically say that that's the intent part. That's why he was strangling the daughter the way he did, the way she did, because end of the day, he was, and also the imprisonment part as well. I do think that this aids with that argument, because that's what he was trying to do to get her away from that shelter that she was trying to head to, and get her to go to Iraq on that one-way ticket. And I think her highlighting the one-way ticket was a really strong argument, because it just gives that backstory that forms to this man would do this, because again, the daughter is running away from him. Yes, she is running away, but she's running away because she has valid fears. They couldn't go into those fears, but she has valid fears in regards to there being a flight ready for her to go to Iraq, a one-way flight ready for her to go to Iraq. So I thought that this was a good argument for her to make. The next argument that she made was in regards to the criminal intent, again from the burglary. And again, I think they're gonna have a hard time proving this part, but let's hear what she has to say.
Chance that she gets Zahraa and Haneen provide information to law enforcement about how this is all Isaiah's fault. She says, go, go, go. He said, go, 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 and he took her. You know these people. They're rude. That's what she says. Those are their statements consistently. So this idea that somehow Isaiah doesn't matter, he's of no consequence, so she's not going in there to violate any orders or assault Isaiah or do anything to Isaiah. She absolutely is. She knows she's not supposed to be there. She knows she's not supposed to have contact. She just doesn't care, because she does not like Isaiah, and she says that repeatedly. She says it to Officer Hang. She says it to Officer Bell. She says it to Officer Chavez over and over again. And keep in mind, this is the same Isaiah that in September, just 4 weeks prior, she's already had some kind of interaction with at the school that has gotten her trespassed in the first place. So we already know that she is in fact the focus. We know that she is the focus of Zahraa's behaviors and actions and ire. And this is an extension of that. And she thinks that he has Fatima, and she's going to get him back.
So I think...
from Isaiah.
So I think the prosecution is really handicapped here, because even though that they are building a case regards to a previous trespass that they could bring in, and also the restraining order that is had against Isaiah and him being the focus of our attention, the fact that they couldn't go into the details of what she did against Isaiah, which was, I believe, she had hit Isaiah or something like that she had caused bodily harm to Isaiah, because they couldn't go into that, I think it's a lot tougher to try and prove that there was a criminal intent to go. I think they have definitely proven that she has broken her restraining order. I'll be very shocked, to be honest, if the jury came back and say no, not guilty on the restraining part. But definitely for the burglary part, I only think that the trespass might help, but it's just, in my opinion, it's just not enough to go in to argue that he went in there to hurt Isaiah without let me rephrase. It's not enough to argue that she went in there to hurt Isaiah with the possibility of hurting Isaiah if all she asked for was Fatima, because that was the testimony. That was what the Miss Chavez, the police officer, said when she was interviewing them, that all she was interested for was the husband. When she was interviewing them, and when they went to the school and she was being turned away, she was asking for Fatima and not necessarily Isaiah. So it might be very hard to get that over the line. But I do believe that with the jury not knowing what exactly she did to Isaiah previously, I think that has handicapped her a little bit. It's just my opinion. I could be completely wrong. The trespass letters could be strong enough indication to prove that she was there for criminal intent against Isaiah. Could be, but I mean, very hard to see. Like, it's just my opinion. I just find it very hard to imagine that she went there with the full intent. I wanna hurt Isaiah because all this is his fault. So it could be difficult to sell that. The next part that she was basically bringing out was the defense in regards to the hugging, and I thought that this was a very good defense. But before we continue, I just want to say, make sure you hit that like button. It really does help with the YouTube algorithm. Please do hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe. I'm going to be doing a full recap of this trial as well as the sentencing trial of Shelby Neely. My first sentencing trial that I've covered on here, and I can't wait to show it to you guys. I am also looking at more and more cases to cover as well on the channel and provide daily recaps. I'm looking at the Sue case that's happening right now in, I believe it's Florida. I may have the wrong state, but it's just a rapper that has been caught up in I think it was a Grand Theft Auto. But I'm still watching that trial. I'm still trying to go through all of it. I might be doing daily recaps of it. But anyway, that's for the future. I also have planned a discussion with Tony DeWitt, who is JD, a lawyer explains channel. He's gonna come in here and talk about all these legalities. So I have a lot of questions to ask him in regards to all that we're seeing here. I have so many questions to ask in regards to how to defend a client like this. So make sure, so when that does get confirmed, make sure you tune in so that we can all learn together and have fun together. But anyway, let's go back to the closing arguments. Isaiah's father, Dima, says Isaiah's father did not appreciate many parts of Mr. Ali's defense closing. Yeah, I saw that. He was shaking his head. The wife was even shocked. He was shaking his head all through. I still can't believe it. I still can't believe he actually tried to argue that these kids that were trying to get Ihsan Ali off Fatima were somehow in the wrong, that they were causing damage to him. Oh, poor Ihsan for all this. Funny as hell to me. Funny as hell to me. It's a lot of work keeping up with all these trials. So sure, I appreciate it, Tony. No, I mean, like, I personally love doing it. I appreciate you for coming on and sharing your opinion in my honest opinion, because it wouldn't be fun covering all these trials without you guys. So, yeah, I personally enjoy it. I personally enjoy doing things like this, and like, so I aim to do more. It's fun to do. It's also serious as well. I see how tensions can rise from doing something like this, especially the Koberger trial. I'll be very honest. I personally tried to avoid everything to do with Koberger, and just waited for the trial to happen. But it gets a lot of emotion sometimes, but I try to keep that out and just give my honest opinions in a case and try not to get affected by it. In my honest opinion, I'm always up for discussions. That's the main part that really drives me to do this. Just trying to learn more about how this process works, what goes through the mind of these kind of people, like what how just how it all works, really. So anyway, let me go back to the state closed rebuttal, and this was, in my opinion, a really strong closing to the rebuttal. Let's watch.
Behavior is actually at the scene of mom. Again, Mr. Leary has described it like she is comforting her child. That's what she's there for. But you heard Fatima say, that's not what we do. There's no hugging in my family. Like, not just like, hey, it's only occasional here and there. There's no hugging in my family. That is what Fatima said. These are not arms that reach around and comfort her child. This is a different kind of hold. This is a restraint. This is a choking around the neck. And Fatima says immediately, I can't breathe. And Denicola says, I can hear her whispering something, but it's not coming out, right? Remember Athena's testimony also saying, I remember her saying, my husband, as it's happening. That's what I remember. Not my daughter, my daughter.
I think that's important as well, because I never heard anyone say, my daughter, my daughter. I actually never heard that. So for the defense to assert that seemed just gaslighting to me. It just seemed weird that they would actually say that she was saying my daughter, when so many people were saying, no, she said my husband, my husband. And yeah, so there was, even if she said my daughter, when it came to going to the school and asking about and trying to get information from Officer Chavez, she was just interested in the husband, and she didn't care for where the daughter went. I do think it helps her a little bit in the intense part that she at least did go to the school. I do think in some way that helps her, but the fact that we heard no testimony in regards to Fatima's condition, whether she's okay or not, kind of puts a dent in the idea. But I do think I will give her some grace. I do think that she does care in some capacity about what happened that day to her daughter. I do think that she just saw, in my honest opinion, she just saw what happened to her husband, what's happening with her daughter, and she just had a brain fart. I would say. I don't know the exact word. Maybe I can't say psychosis or like anything like that, but she just had, in my opinion, she was torn. She was torn in, and she was just trying to. If I was to try and see what she was doing, she just didn't know what to believe when she's seen her husband go through this, and also sees the daughter go through something like that, you know. So that's the only way I can give her some grace, that she's trying to see that the husband is cool, and she's also trying to see that the daughter is cool, that she's trying to look out for them both because she's just a mother. That's the only way I can give her grace and maybe believe, no, she didn't set out with the intent to accomplish with the dad in what he was doing. That is literally just the dad's actions that's in the wrong here. So I can see that part. I don't think it's right that she joined in with the strangling. I think that's just weird to me. I mean, yeah, but I do think in some realm she does care for the daughter. Anyway, I want to speak about what the state highlighted here, and I do think that this part was very impactful because it made me go and do a little bit of search, and what she did here was really impactful. If the jury knows anything about strangulation outside of what they've been shown, he is toast after this.
Rights are not unabridged. They have a lot of leeway in how they restrain and discipline their child, but those rights are not unabridged. You don't get to do whatever you want and then couch it under the guise of parental discipline. And here, Mr. and Mrs. Ali grossly exceeded what that looks like. Fatima was strangled for approximately 45 seconds. And if you think about how long 45 seconds is for somebody who hasn't taken a breath, they weren't anticipating holding their breath, they weren't anticipating being strangled, and it's not just holding their breath, but there's additional pressure and panic occurring at the time. 45 seconds is a really long time. So let's count it out.
This is powerful. Imagine. Can you hold? I can't even hold my breath for this long on the water. Like, just imagining going for swimming lessons, you would have to come up for air at some point. So if you can't even hold your breath underwater for like a minute or two, imagine having. I thought this was impactful. I really thought this was that this was probably the best closing. She's not emotive.
That's 45 seconds.
She's not emotive, like, you know, trying to, like, because I remember Israel Kodiaga from the Karen Cooper trial. He was very emotive based on his voice. I personally thought watching the closing, watching him cross-examine Karina Cooper based on what she did and bring forth the text messages, he seemed really hurt. Like, at least his voice fluctuation sounded really hurt. So when I look at her and how forceful, like, you know, like, she may not come across sympathetic or anything like that. She actually comes across very professional, direct. So her doing a move like this, I thought was superb. And I had to go look up the strangulation. And this was a pamphlet from Alaska, I believe. It says here that strangulation as only recently identified as one of the most lethal forms of domestic violence. Unconsciousness may occur within seconds and death within minutes. So when we look here, it says here, brain death will occur in 4 to 5 minutes if strangulation persists. That's not a long time. What she basically did here, in my opinion, what she basically did as just narrowed the time down. If you think 45 seconds is a short amount of time, then let's play it out and imagine being strangled for that long. Like, I don't know if we've heard. I personally think if there was only one defect from all of this, is they probably should have got a testimony in regarding how long it would take if someone is being strangled, to at least get it in that if you've been strangled for X amount of time that you could die from it. Maybe I can't remember the testimony from the doctors. That was never offered as an expert opinion. So it would have been nice to maybe hear something like that. Maybe if I've missed it, let me know in the chat. But even without that, I still think that this is very impactful to let you know that 45 seconds is not a short amount of time. It definitely throws what I said regarding her needing to get out and go to the hospital. It throws that out of the water now, because you don't need that anymore. Like, the fact that you can regain consciousness and then leave the scene just shows that when you consider all of the situation, that maybe you don't need to leave. Maybe you don't need to be leaving in an ambulance, though it would help the argument. Maybe you don't need to go to the hospital straight away, but it's still a dangerous act to go through, because you could still lose your life. 45 seconds it felt like forever. It literally felt like a long time. And maybe it would have helped if you mentioned, like, no, I think it's enough, but I think what she did today was enough. But yeah, so the evidence against him, as we heard from all of the witness testimonies, especially from Isaiah, who testified in regards to the relationship with Fatima. They were in a 9-month relationship where the parents did not approve. The mother had already put hands on him. Also, the fact that the father did not, they did not approve of the relationship. There was already talks to get them out. There was already a restraining order in place. Fatima had already testified to being taken to Iraq, and she didn't want to go. That there was a one-way ticket for her to go to Iraq. She was taken out to do online schooling at home. All of these things compounded does not give a positive light to there being a positive home for her. Like, that's what I'm getting here. I'm also getting the idea that that she not only did not have a positive home to be at, but there was a reason why she was missing a lot of classes, because she was just like, I mean, it's one thing to try and argue that someone is a freaking runaway and someone is a truant, but it's another thing to try and argue that because of that, they needed to be punished in this way. It's just, it doesn't compute to me that all of that behavior, even if she was a bad child, would deserve strangulation for up to 45 seconds. Personally speaking, with all the evidence presented, especially the pediatrician testimony regarding the seizure that she went through, she honestly could have lost her life in all of this. I think without the intervention of those men that the defense have completely just tried to shit on. I'm sorry to swear. I shouldn't. I try not to swear on this channel, but based on the defense trying to say that these men caused the father to not get his hands, they didn't allow the father to carry out what he did. She could have died if they did. I don't know why you would make that argument and expect him to get off with the second degree attempted murder charge. I just don't. I wouldn't be surprised if the jury comes back with guilty on that charge alone, because no one in their right mind would have let it happen, especially based on the video on the video that we've seen. The testimony from the testimony again from Fatima is, to me, is impactful enough. The eyewitness testimonies, everyone there was scared for her life. Everyone there all testified to her looking like death and her looking like she was gonna lose her life. And you can hear it in the video that was presented that she could have easily lost her life. But nonetheless, I hope I hope that I should have run a poll, but I hope that the jury comes back with a guilty verdict for at least second degree attempted murder. The imprisonment charge, jury is out. They can find that guilty for that, but I'll be very happy if they just find him guilty with just that one charge and the rest go if he's not guilty, fine. But I think he definitely deserves second degree attempted murder. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments section. If you're watching this back on replay, let me know in the chat as well. Let me just read this last chat before I go. I don't want to keep this stream too long, but Dima says, the time would be good. I remember another trial years ago, and I think they said 3 to 4 minutes. Chris Watts case. Why have I heard this name before? Is that the guy that killed his entire family? Chris Watts? I've heard that name before. Anyway, 45 seconds plus panic, surging adrenaline. Yeah, so many like just thinking about it, like your body is not receiving oxygen, what you need to live. So I mean, looking back and putting everything together, I do sound kind of ridiculous for even suggesting that she needed to be taken away in a ambulance or something like that. It would have helped. I do sound, but because when you look at everything that's come in, is definitely 100%. Is definitely 100% enough to say that she could have died from this. 45 seconds is a very long time. It is a very long time. Former expert Shannon B. Alana. Welcome back, Alana. I hope you're well. You are up very late, like I am. But yeah, another UK resident. I'm glad that you're here. She said, yeah, okay, yeah. So I knew I've heard of that case. I might, but yeah. So I'm going to do a series. I'm planning to do a series where we look back on the OJ case. I really want to look back on that case because I did not watch the trial. I watched the movie with David Schwimmer. I watched the movie, but I did not watch the trial. The trial. So I want to do a series in which I do a 2-hour stream where we just watch the full trial and then give my commentary. I don't care how long it takes. I really don't care. But I really want to do that series, and I really want to see whether what you guys think, whether OJ really did it or not. I don't know when I will start it. I want to get all the trials that I'm watching out of the way first. But definitely, I want to do a series where we watch the OJ trial every 2 days or every week or something like that. Dima says, kill pregnant wife and two little girls horribly. Okay, yeah, this is what's described the perfect dad and husband. It was horrible. He strangled the wife. So yeah, like I mean, definitely there are documented cases of where strangulation does lead to death. But it's never been highlighted that this strangulation took 45 seconds. That was never highlighted all through the trial. So, well, it may have been. I may have missed it. I like to think. I like to err on the side of caution, which is why I tend to think maybe I'm wrong in some ways. But I definitely don't remember. I definitely don't remember seeing anything regarding regarding how long the strangulation took. But I wish there was testimony in regards to how long it would take someone to die from a strangulation. I think that would have really drove the point home, at least in the closing arguments. But she knocked it out of the park with that 45-second hold, just to give people the mental image of someone going through that for 45 seconds and not being let go, and the person doesn't let go. Dima says, "Oh my lord, the OJ trial was the first trial I watched. Then didn't watch any for years and years." Yeah, I mean, I've never the only trial, the first ever trial that I've seen is the Depp v. Heard trial, and that really got me into doing all this. I think I have always looked at cases, but I've never watched a trial before. I knew that OJ was obviously televised. I just never watched it happen. So the only exposure that I've had to the courtroom, it has been dramatized. So the Depp v. Heard trial was the one that basically opened my eyes to all of this. I never knew. Well, I wouldn't say I never knew it existed. No, I never knew that it existed. I was just I never knew that there was this side where they were showing trials that you can watch, all day if you wanted to. I just never knew that existed, and I really enjoyed what I was seeing from the Depp v. Heard trial. But I've always read reports regarding trials. I've always read court documents when I was in uni, when I was doing law modules when I was there. So, but I just never watched one. So yeah. Anyways, I'll just end it there. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Make sure that you like this video and subscribe to the channel for more videos that we have. I will see when the verdict is reached. We will set up. I will definitely set up the interview with a lawyer explains, Tony DeWitt, and then we will go through all of we'll go through all of that and discuss this trial at length. So I can't wait for that. In all fairness. Dima says, Depp v. Heard, is that how you know? Yeah. Is that how you know Andrea Burkhardt? I watched the conversation you both had. Yeah. That's how I knew her. I remember she was tweeting about it a lot, and I was like, hey, do you want to talk about this? And then she was like, yeah, let's do it. It was, I think it was my second interview that I had. It was the best talk. Honestly the best talk. I love to pick her brain. Extremely intelligent woman. But yeah, thank you so much for tuning in everybody. I hope you have a great night or day wherever you're at. Take good care of yourself and have a great day or night. Bye bye. Thank you for tuning in for another episode of the Ketchup Court podcast. Don't forget to like this video, share this video, and subscribe for more legal cases that we cover on this channel. We do nothing but cover legal cases and true crime on here. You can also check out our playlist that we have of all of our content. They're all available in the playlist option. Make sure you go check that out. So make sure that you hurry back and catch up with us. See you on the next one. Bye for now.